Alright, so earlier this year I put out a video on this micro that I built as a custom build, and one of my favorite builds of this year. It's a lot of fun to fly, plenty of power, good agility, just overall, really nice flower. And I did make it a little bit lighter from that video. I replaced the rather large and heavy antenna that was on here with two dual whip antennas, which just made it perform even better. And I think the downside for this one was that the this camera cage here in the front is made for an analog system, or like a 19mm camera, and I had to make this sort of custom sort of camera mount here that probably a lot of people would have a little trouble figuring out how to get this in here properly. And I said, well, no, the manufacturer of this frame, they'll probably make an alternate version of this, because there's several versions of this frame. And another, I imagine they would make a newer version that would be specifically for the O3 camera. And as I suspected, they did do that. And I made a video on this frame, or at least a general drone build video on this frame earlier. This is what it looks like. The company is called Alpha RC, and I forget the name of this frame exactly. It's based on the motor to motor distance, like it's 118mm or something like that. But it's basically for 2.5-inch props, and as you can see here now, they have a dedicated front area that'll fit the O3 camera. Now, obviously on this one here, I went completely with a completely naked O3 air unit and naked camera unit. This one here, because it's got a bigger camera cage here, this little metal aluminum cage will fit the full O3 camera. I just went with a partial naked O3 here in the back. But for the most part, the frames are pretty much the same, as you can see. It's just that they have modified the front end to accommodate the rather large camera area, as you can see here. So this, obviously they've widened this up a bit to accommodate those metal cages, and the back is pretty much the same. I did elect in this particular build to go with all the heavier pieces, so I'm going with a heavier camera setup in the front here, the full O3 antenna in the back here. I'm using the included TPU mount here in the back that could have possibly accommodated GPS, but I'm not using it in this particular build. And then I'm also using the TPU feet here. So it's substantially heavier. So this, just for reference, here is the previous build. Obviously everything is made quite a bit lighter, so it's only like 85.4 grams. And then the new build here is 110.5 grams. So it's roughly 25 grams heavier. Now, I did go with a little bit bigger motor in this case. It's a 1303 RCN power motor at 5000 kV. And the previous build has a Flywoo 1203 motor. And this one's actually at a lower kV. It's only 3400 kV. But, basically you have a lower spec motor, lower kV, same prop, versus a bigger motor, higher kV, same prop, and all these are both on 4S. Just the weight difference is so significant that the performance is actually better on the lower kV motors, and this motor is actually more efficient. So I get a better performance and better flight time on the old setup here with everything being lighter versus having all these extra pieces and protection and extra weight. It is 25 grams is a lot. So if you think about it, so 25 grams out of an 85 gram, that's almost a 30% increase in weight for basically the same power setup. Basically it's a 1203 versus 1303 motor, it's the same sort of 2.5-inch prop. And so that's what kind of like I saw this frame and I was like, wow, it's going to be heavier. I kind of knew that from the beginning. I thought maybe I should go with maybe even some bigger motors, and maybe if you're going to go heavier, you might as well go all out and go straight to the 1404 motor. I'll talk about that in another video because I think there's going to be, if you think about like the Icon 2.5 from AVNRC, that is probably like the way you want to go if you want to go more on the heavier side for 14 for 2.5 inch. I forget what that weighs. I'll put it up here on the screen, but you saw that video, that review. That I thought performed more similarly to the way this one performed. So basically, this one performed like the Icon 2.5, but obviously this has a lot less protection and it's a lot lighter. But this one has more flight time. It's more efficient. This one here kind of has a decline in both performance and efficiency. So I would either go with this one here or the Icon 2.5. And I decided that, yeah, this setup here, I probably should throw some 1404 motors on here. And I think this would definitely perform similarly to the Icon 2.5. Maybe with a little bit less weight than that. But yeah, I don't know. This camera cage here, while it's larger in width and can accommodate the O3 camera, as you can see, I had to put in some, these are some silicone grommets because there's an extra space in here. These are from the Flyfish, I forget what the name of one of the Flyfish frames. And so you're gonna need, they include like a couple of these like O-rings to fill in the gap, but I felt the camera was just moving around too much, so I put in something here that was a little bit substantial, more substantial, so that the camera wouldn't move. And I don't get that much vibration, but yeah, overall I'm just pretty underwhelmed with this whole setup. They do have another version of this frame. So they came up with this one with the metal camera cage. They also have another one, Alpha RC. This one here is the 3-inch version of that alternate frame, but it has carbon side plates. So that would be over here. They look like this. You'll see this in a future video. I have another build video coming out a little bit later with these RCN power. These are the 1404. I forget, this is another new version of their 1404 motors, the 4680. It's going to go into this 3-inch build. And again, I don't know exactly when they'll be, but this is like another version of this frame, but this is the 3-inch version with the carbon side plates and then the silicone, or I'm sorry, the CPU dampeners that will hold the O3 camera. I probably should have gone with this version instead of the metal. I think that one is actually sized correctly for the O3 camera. So I'll link that frame also down in the video description. I think the main reason I built this one here is because this frame here at the time, I think it was around $10 to $12. Now the frames are starting, these guys are getting, I guess, a little more popular. They're starting to increase their prices. So this one here I bought for like $16, and they're starting to creep up a little bit. I think the 3-inch version of this frame, or the 2.5-inch version of this frame, is a little bit more expensive. I think it's like $17. Anyway, prices change daily anyway on AliExpress, so I'll link those down in the video description. The 3-inch version of that, the 2.5-inch version of that, and this new frame. You can take a look at those and see, take a look at those frames a little bit closer and see which ones you like. But I did do a full build video on this frame, which is more of a general build video that could cover pretty much any kind of a drone build. So I'll link that video down in the video description as well if you want to check it out. It just covers how I approach this particular build. It just turns out that I think basically what comes down to is the motor selection on this is probably wrong for the weight of this frame. I should have gone to a bigger motor because this frame is a bit on the heavier side, and then obviously with this sort of ultralight setup here, this 1203 motor is perfectly fine. This is a very nice flyer. So what I think I'm going to do is on the next 2.5-inch build, I'm going to go super ultra lightweight. Got one of these sitting around here. I think this frame here was like 30 grams, and this one's like 12 grams. It's super lightweight. And I may do like maybe an 1103 motor, maybe a 1202.5, something, a motor that's going to work well with a really light frame like that. So that'll be in a future video down the road. But again, if I was showing you the flight footage from this guy here, and we went back and looked at the flight footage from this one here, and you look at the flight footage, you can't really notice that much difference, honestly. Like, I'm just watching it back, I'm like, oh, it doesn't look that bad. It looks about the same. But when you actually fly these back to back in terms of batteries, like I flew one here and one here, they feel completely different. Like you're flying like completely two different quads. They just are just not even close. They're not even close to being the same thing. So flight footage, again, I'll tell you again and again, it doesn't tell you the whole story. I should do a video and show you flight footage of like 2.5 inch, 3 inch, and 3.5 inch, and a 5 inch. And let's see how many of you can actually guess which is which correctly. That would be pretty fun. That'd be a fun video. If you think it's a fun video, let me know down in the comments below. Maybe I'll do that for a future video. Because looking at flight footage is really only part of the story. It's how the quad feels in the air, what you feel you can do with that quad in terms of performance. That doesn't really come over in video very well. I can only tell it to you based on the things I notice that are different between the two builds here that are, similar frames, but at the end of the day, they're really different. That 25 grams is a really big difference maker. So hopefully that's a little nugget that you can carry over in your builds and figure out what you want to do for your builds in the future. That'll cover for this video and this frame. I think I'm done with this one. I'm going to move on, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.